We've got two last talks, and this upcoming one is by Jennifer Szeliga, who is the Director of Operations for the Sacramento Tree Foundation, which launched an urban wood rescue program to salvage logs from removed trees and give them new life by transforming them into useful lumber and beautiful projects that still give the community benefits through those trees. So I'm really excited to hear more about this, and with that, I'll pass it over to Jennifer.
Good afternoon. It is a huge pleasure to be here today to share our program with you and what we've been doing in the urban wood utilization space over the last 5 years. So thank you, Cindy and Victoria and everyone else who played a role in getting us here to talk about the program. And I will just wait 1 second. I do have a slide presentation for real. Oh, you're fine. We don't need that, right? So what's going to start, what is urban wood rescue and what is urban wood utilization? So I would say, well, in 2014, we got our first grant from CAL FIRE to start up an urban wood rescue program. The whole goal of our program, I'm sorry, I walk when I talk, so I will try to stay right here. Oh, I could do that, huh? So the whole goal of urban wood rescue is to divert logs from the landfill, thereby reducing the amount of wood waste that's going in the waste stream. And so when we do that, we're able to give this tree a second life, and we continue to capture all the carbon that tree gathered up during its lifetime. And then what we're able to do is take that tree, process it through milling and drying and that sort of thing, and be able to provide this really amazing, beautiful wood back to the community, back to artisans, back to a lot of different people who are then able to make it into the very, very beautiful products. All along, it's still storing all of the carbon that came through, that it captured during its life. So why did we decide to do this here in Sacramento? Well, we took a look at all of the programming that we were currently doing, and we had a really great seed to tree program. But there was this gap, right, in between when a tree dies or removed or that sort of thing, and what was happening to it. And we realized a lot of the city's trees and a lot of other trees were going directly to the landfill or being mulched. And mulch isn't a bad thing, we all need it, right? But we wanted to be able to divert some of those logs from the trees to our yard, and thereby closing that loop. Right? So we really have full-on, full-circle urban forestry. And so how did we start? Well, we started back in 2014. We applied for our very first CAL FIRE grant, and we got it. And so that was really the beginning of the Urban Wood Rescue Program. We are currently on our third CAL FIRE grant, which has been really awesome that they've been able to provide the support they have. We do have other funding sources, which include other grants and funding from California Air Resources Board, as well as the revenue that we generate from the wood sales, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. I wanted to talk just briefly about our operations, and for those of you who have signed up to the tour, great. I'm really excited to share the actual yard with you this afternoon. We actually it's okay. I think I'm like on, here, then this will make it easier. Did all that, did that. Okay, our operations. So what do we do at Urban Wood Rescue? So we receive logs from different places around Sacramento, usually private tree care companies, our local utility, the city of Sacramento, those types of places. And I'll talk a little bit about those partnerships later on. We receive those logs. As soon as the logs come in, they're inventoried, and we put all of the information we know about those particular logs in the system. So we're able to tell you, if you come to our yard and you buy a slab or a piece of wood, we're actually able to trace that all the way back to where that tree came from. In many cases, it's the address. Sometimes it's just the zip code. We're also able to tell you, in most cases, why that tree was removed, whether it be for health reasons or safety reasons or wind or whatever. And so from the beginning, we're really telling that story. And then once we actually mill the wood, every piece of lumber that comes out of that log is inventoried as well. So we can really track it all the way from log to when you come to the yard to buy it and tell you that entire story that that log went through. So when a log comes to our yard, we inventory it. We then have 2 mills on site in which I have a small team of people who actually process these logs into lumber. And when I say lumber, I'm talking about live edge slabs, dimensional lumber, and then sometimes we have cookies, which are big rounds, and then some other products that we offer, including turning blanks and mantles and those sorts of things. At that time, wood will go into our air drying sheds where it will pretty much stay for 6 months to 2 years, depending on the species. And then it goes in our kilns. We have 2 kilns on site to dry wood, which is really awesome. You want to dry wood because a lot of people think when a tree comes down, it's ready to work with, and it's not. And I'm sure you all know that. But it's so full of water that it really needs to take a lot of time to dry out before it's really workable. And so having the kiln speeds up that process so that you have more wood that you're able to get back out into the community, but it also kills bugs, which is also very useful as well. We don't want to be responsible for spreading anything throughout the community. So once we do that, we then put it out on the yard and we sell it. All of our proceeds from our lumber goes back into the programs of the Sacramento Tree Foundation and into the operations of Urban Wood Rescue. The other cool things that we do in the process is we offer special services. We have a lot of education woven through all of these processes that I've shared with you. And we do a cool donation program. So if you're a community program or nonprofit church, that kind of thing, and say you're building planter boxes for a community garden, you can come to us and we'll work out with you how much wood you might need and that sort of thing. And then we'll actually donate that wood to you so that you can have those planter boxes made. And so it's a great way to get the wood out into the community, which is really one of our goals. We want to make sure that this tree is still usable in a really great way after it's gone through all of this process. So one of the things we've learned, as you guys all know through your work, is really the success of this has been building partnerships. And so I just wanted to briefly talk a little bit this afternoon about our partnerships, because they have been so critical to our work. And I think the thing to remember is that our model might not be for everybody, but there might be pieces of this that you could take back to your communities or you might be interested in doing. One of the things about our operation is we are not completely vertical. We only take the slab or the wood to the rough sawn. It's not sanded or anything like that. And the whole idea of that was that we wanted to be able to then connect the dots after that, to bring people together, to be able to utilize that wood. And so in doing so, we're able to connect you as a customer to a local maker or to talk you through the process, or you come to one of our workshops and you make one of your own tables. It's connecting you to that wood and having you be part of that process. Sorry. So as I said, building partnerships is really key to success, and the diversification of our partnerships has really been critical to our success as well. And it really, as I mentioned, helps facilitate the community being part of the tree's life. And so I just wanted to share a few of the partnerships that we've had that have been really successful throughout the entire process. So obviously, the City of Sacramento, huge partner. They not only bring us logs, but they're also very involved in education and outreach associated with the program. And they're already very involved with the Sacramento Tree Foundation, so it was just a natural fit to have them plugged in now to this last sort of piece of the puzzle. SMUD, our local utility district, again, another longtime partner of the Sacramento Tree Foundation. As you can imagine, as a utility district, they remove a lot of trees. So we are just one of the many places that they're able to bring their trees. We get a lot of redwoods from them, which is kind of awesome. Not that they're taking down, don't get me wrong, people are like, you want dead trees? And I'm like, I do, but I don't necessarily want the good ones that are still living. I just want the dead ones. So they're able to bring us a lot of logs. We get a lot of redwood from them, and redwood is very popular. As you all can, we all live in California. We not all be from here, but everybody wants a piece of redwood in their home, and so redwood is a very, very popular species. So one of the other cool things we do is demonstration projects. I talked a little bit about our donation program, and this is a little bit different. This allows us to take trees that are removed, process them through milling and drying and that sort of thing, and then put them back pretty close, if not right in the place where they were taken out. So it's just a great way to show, sorry, I forgot what I was saying there. Great way to show how, you know, that full circle happens. And so what we do is we don't necessarily process it beyond the rough sawn slab, like I said, but we're able to get it to that point to then give it back to like the designer or the architect or someone like that to make it into something. And I just wanted to show you two cool projects that we had doing this. One is the B Street Theater. If you're from Sacramento and you've ever been to the B Street Theater, the wood paneling in the back is one of these demonstration projects. These logs were actually not urban, but they needed a new home and a second life. They're actually donated to us through PG&E and their beetle kill pine out of the Sierras. So we milled all of that wood, we got it dried, and then it went back to the architects and the construction folks who were putting this together. The other one is Sacramento State. They built the planetarium not too long ago, and so all of the trees that were removed from there, again, came to us, and then we were able to mill them to the specifications that they wanted, which is another key part of this. And then again, it went back and they were able to put it into the planetarium building. There's also benches out front that was made from trees that went into those that came from there. So those are just a couple of that. The other partnerships we have, and again, just sharing these with you to show you the different avenues we utilize to get the wood out there into the community. And we have a great partnership with Room and Board. For those of you who don't know who Room and Board are, they're a national furniture company based out of Minnesota. And so we were very fortunate to meet with them very early on in the process when we were starting up Urban Wood. They have several different lines of urban wood products and companies that they work with throughout the United States. They started with the Baltimore Wood Project, which is focused in Baltimore, and it started as a deconstruction project where they were using deconstructed material and recycling it, and then they have since gone to live edge slabs. And so they partner with programs like us across the country to put out small furniture lines. And so we tested some with them. We had some walnut and some elm. And what we ended up settling on was this redwood cookie table that you see in front of you. And so what we do is we cut the logs, make them into cookies. And originally we were then sending that raw material after it had been kiln dried to Minnesota, and it would be processed and turned into the table that you see. But what we've just done in this past year is try to make it more local. And so we've gone ahead and partnered with a local maker who now, instead of it being shipped to Minnesota, we dry the wood here, mill the wood here, it goes to him. He will then do everything that you see there to make it look like that beautiful top, put the bow ties in, surface it, all that sort of thing. And then it goes to Minnesota just to have the legs put on it, and then they distribute it to their clients and their showrooms and that sort of thing. So again, really trying to keep it as local as possible. We're actually working on another partnership with another local agency that works with formerly incarcerated people. Same idea. We would come up with the furniture line with Room and Board. We would provide the wood. They would do the work, and then it goes there for final processing. So just kind of a cool example. And the cool thing about this too is they also tell the story. So if you go on the Room and Board website, it tells you where the majority of these trees came from that they're working with. It's actually called the Truxell table. So that from those of you who are familiar with Sacramento, Truxell Road is north, a little bit north and west of Sacramento near the airport. And those trees actually came down as a safety hazard. And then of course, we couldn't do what we do without the community. And so we have had a lot of community support, whether it be through donations or just coming to our yard to buy product. We have a lot of local makers who have become consistent purchasers of our wood. And then, of course, the aspiring woodworkers out there. We do lots of workshops, as I mentioned, table making. We do workshops for Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. And really, it's the whole idea of just getting people to touch the wood and be exposed to it. And we find that that makes a big difference. I could stand up here and talk to you all day about urban wood, but for those of you coming to the yard, I think hopefully it will all click. It really helps when you see things and you kind of see the whole operation. And if we can just inspire a few people to get excited about woodworking and continue this, we've done our jobs to a certain degree, right? All right, so of course, we've learned a lot of lessons along the way. Urban Wood Rescue has been a program for about 5 years, fully running and up and operational. We really learned that as the Sacramento Tree Foundation, in order to really promote and say that we did full cycle urban forestry and how it is essential to our seed to slab work, we really wanted to have a program like this, and we wanted to make sure that it was paired with tree replacement programs as well. So one of our grants we worked with the city on tree replacement, and then we also are able to work with SMUD and other organizations like that with tree replacement. And then, of course, our free shade tree program allows more trees to get planted as well to offset the trees that might be being removed. One of the things we've also found is that a lot of cities and municipalities don't often have recycling urban trees in their urban forestry master plan or legislation around that. And so, fortunately, here in Sacramento, I believe they're putting it into the urban forest master plan, and it's also written into the county plan as well. So that helps, but it's definitely an obstacle when you think about working with urban trees. And then, of course, elevating that to the level. So we do a lot of tours for elected officials, both at the city, county, and state level, and federal as well. And just all of those important stakeholders that help us do our jobs better. And this has just been, again, really a way to expose people to urban wood and utilizing it after it's, again, comes down and helping people understand that it's really cool and it has a really awesome second life. Education, outreach, and engagement, again, all very much probably at the heart of what we do, all of us. But this has really been important. Again, just helping people understand what urban wood utilization is and what an important part it is within the urban forestry cycle. Kind of talked about, and then this other one, which I've mentioned, partnerships are paramount to success. And really a long-term commitment is important too. Our program looks nothing like it was originally envisioned in 2014. The founding principles are still there, but the actual operation looks very different. And I'm not saying, again, that our model is the best way to do it, but I think there are different ways that if you're interested, you can plug yourself into urban wood utilization in the communities that you live and work in. And the other thing I'll just mention as I wrap up is that it's really important to know that this is not an inexpensive venture. And so really important, fortunately we have amazing CAL FIRE funding, and we have other funding that's come from other sources as well as the revenue. But there are a lot of hurdles with that, especially because we're a nonprofit. And so we're one of the few nonprofits in the United States running a program like this. So it's sort of a pseudo business within the operation of the nonprofit. But it's really important that we can find ways to utilize urban trees after they've lived their life alive. That doesn't make sense, but you guys know what I mean. Okay. And then there are a ton of resources out there. These are just a few that I picked. If you're all interested in learning more about urban wood utilization, you can Google it and all of these sites come up. But these are just kind of a few people who are currently in the arena working on this. So that's that. Are there any questions?
What a great story. I love the full cycle, life cycle. I actually have a question to start off. I have heard murmurs that one of the complications of doing a program like this is that oftentimes when we are taking down dead trees, our maintenance crews are sometimes taking them down at, let's say, like a 5-foot length, because it's easier then to potentially feed into a chipper and or move around on different kind of, maintenance vehicles, so on and so forth. And that then to get an actual good, useful plank size, it needs to be 8 feet, let's say. So our removal of it is then impeding our ability to do the reuse, meaning that we would have to go back to that step and kind of work with municipalities or other groups that are doing the removal to then change their practices. Did you run into any of that, and were you able to navigate those conversations to then get the green light to where you get them felled at the right length that you need?
We absolutely ran into those challenges along the way. And part of that was just through education. So we, as I mentioned, we do a lot of tours, and those tours include like the crew supervisors for the city who are actually out there running the crews that are removing the trees, and or just the folks who are scheduling and managing that. Same with tree care companies, having them come out and see it and why we need it in a certain size. It doesn't always work. We definitely, 8 feet, 14 inches in diameter, 8 feet or longer actually makes the best wood, usable wood. But there's a lot of things you can do with shorter pieces as well. So we do get 5 pieces, 5-foot pieces in, 4-foot pieces in, that sort of thing. But it's just letting them know that there's the opportunity there and there's the educational piece around it. We have developed a great flyer around that too, like how to make good cuts in an urban tree to get the most yield out of it as well. And so again, having those tours, doing those workshops with the key people who are cutting down those trees is really important.
Other folks?
You said that there's workshops, like woodworking workshops.
Mm-hmm.
How would we find out about those, and when do those occur? And
yeah, no, that's a great question. So because it's starting to get hot, we probably won't do any until the fall because they are out on our yard, which is asphalt. You can actually go to Sac Tree, the website that I have up here, programs, and then go to Urban Wood Rescue, and we will have all of our workshops published once we have them scheduled. We also do, you can follow us on social media too. We're at Instagram and Facebook. We post all of the workshops there as well. No, they are not. No, they're not. We usually try to make them reasonable, and usually what you're paying for is the cost of the wood and then the supplies that might be needed. So like legs if we're making tables or that sort of thing. Absolutely. That is the whole goal. You get to not only like work with the wood and feel the wood and all that, but you walk away after a 4-hour workshop with a small coffee table or a round coffee table or something like that. So yeah, that's the goal, is we want you to be able to walk away, have that thing that you made in your home that you're proud of and that you tell everyone about. Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh. What was my question? I get a lot of phone calls from folks that either have to take a tree down or are in the process of taking a tree down. Do you only take trees from contractors, or can someone with a tree log in the back of their truck come by and drop it off?
Absolutely. We get a lot of those calls too, and we do have a one-page flyer kind of talking about like what we do take and what we don't take. Because obviously, if you bring us stuff that we don't take, we have to dispose of it. So we try to minimize that. But yes, if you're a homeowner, we encourage that. If you can do it yourself, that's great. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have the capacity to go pick up trees. There are some folks who work in this industry that are able to do that, like True Wood Builders, for example, here in Sacramento. He goes out and picks up trees and then processes them. So no, we definitely encourage anyone who has a tree. And again, 8 feet is the ideal length, but if 5 feet, 6 feet also works as well. And we can make that work for different projects and that sort of thing.
I've been able to garnish amazing amounts of mulch from tree companies so that they don't have the expense of dumping it. I'm wondering what you're using to motivate all these organizations to either, unless you pay them,
Right.
how do you motivate them to support you?
That is an amazingly great question that I don't have the answer for. No, I can answer some of it. You are correct. We don't pay people to do this. And so a lot of it is outreach and education and telling the story, right? And getting people excited about the story. And I'll say it doesn't work all the time. There are definitely people who would rather take their logs to the landfill, even though they might have to pay for it, because it's easier, right? It's just easier. Same with like asking about the appropriate lengths and things to cut it in. It's easier to chunk it up and put it in a chipper. So to put that little bit of effort in to come to our yard and drop those trees off it can be cost prohibitive as well. And so fortunately, supply is not an issue. But again, a lot of it at the very beginning was doing focus groups with tree care services, with artisans, with, folks like that, kind of talking to them about like, what would make you do this or what would make you feel comfortable doing this. And so again, it comes down again to talking to a lot of people, a lot of outreach, and getting people out to the yard just to see it. Because once they see it, they're like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool, and we could do that. And I'm sure we're just a tiny little part of this, and so I do know we miss a lot, but we try.
So you said at one point, we're, and I'm paraphrasing, a nonprofit running a pseudo business. Because we're a bunch of nonprofits here, and what does that mean, a pseudo business?
Right. So essentially, there's a certain dollar amount where then we would have to become a official business, but we are allowed to sell up to a certain amount based on California IRS rules and California state rules, up to a certain dollar amount. And so what I mean by when I say that is that we're producing this lumber, and then we are actually we have a business. We sell it back out to the community or to designers and interior designers and that sort of thing. And so there's the tax implications that you have to take into consideration, the timber tax as well that exists in the state of California. And so there's just a lot of business practices that you have to follow, which is not necessarily something we traditionally do in our nonprofit work, because we're not selling something and getting money in exchange for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because there are nonprofits that sell things like art museums that sell stuff. So that's interesting. And just out of curiosity, what's the limit, or does it vary?
I don't remember because we're not even close.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. And I guess what I also mean by that is we're an urban forestry nonprofit who is doing this, which is kind of unique as well.
All right, any last burning questions? Okay, one more over here.
Just briefly, how selective are you about the types of trees that you utilize in terms of which trees are best for lumber or artisanal use?
Sure, there are definitely some species that we really, really like, but to be honest with you, we take almost everything as long as it's, 14 inches in diameter or bigger, because we're all like rookies at this to a certain degree, and so we don't know how some wood works. And so if there's something out there that we've never worked with, we want to work with it to then see if it would be a good product to share with makers and that sort of thing. So there really aren't any trees, trying to think in my head, that we don't take. And primarily they're the key ones. The key ones that we get are the key ones that are in the urban forest here in Sacramento.
All right, well, let's give another round of applause to Jennifer. And again,